Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
This week feels different to me. This week feels not like Chattanooga, not like Kent State, not even NC State. This week feels like a challenge. We'll get to that. A big show lined up. As we appreciate those that have joined us, please hit the like and subscribe button. We'll talk about, should Josh Heupel run it up versus OU? I think we all agree he will if he gets the chance. And we'll have 5 Sooners to watch for the Vols. This will be a test. This is a good defensive team. This is not a pushover. I'll have my bold predictions for the Vols OU game, and I've been all on it. Not afraid to say it. I can share the numbers with you. I've got the receipts. Deion Sanders trashes reporters who I guess are destitute up there in Colorado and are jealous of NIL money. It never occurred to me to be jealous of somebody else making more money, but nevertheless, also Edgar Thompson will join us with the Orlando Sentinel to talk about the dumpster fire that is the University of Florida. And you now have Urban Meyer coming out and making statements, which we will get to, about how bad things are. So I think he's looking for the job, to be quite honest with you. And I think another very familiar name is going to come up, and I'll give you a reason why later in the program. Groomers in Gainesville. Gainesville groomers. John Gruden. Could it be? Caleb Calhoun, we've got a big show. How are you, sir?
I'm good. That sounds very inappropriate. Groomers in Gainesville groomers. It's not Florida already has Florida is already the sex offender capital of the world. And
I didn't know that. But there you go. That's
it's
good
Disney
to know.
World. I mean, yeah.
Let's go ahead and set this up right now on our YouTube channel for funsies. As a Tennessee fan or an SEC fan, we all have fun poking fun at Florida because they're nouveau riche in the 90s. I guess it's not so nouveau anymore. That means new rich people, and they're really cocky about it. And whereas Tennessee, Alabama, those type of schools have a much better tradition. I think, Caleb, you would agree with that. But I got a great poll question to get us started, if you don't mind. So if you don't mind setting it up, I'm thinking this on our YouTube channel. We know that Billy Napier's gone after this year, okay? Sorry, that's going to happen. I hate it if the Napier family is tuned in and they're getting this breaking news right now, but it's not going to work out. So, Caleb, the question that I want you to pose on the YouTube channel there, and by the way, Timothy McGee throws in a super chat. We don't ask for those very often, but we appreciate you being a member, Timothy, because all that money goes to Caleb Calhoun's son, Quincy's college fund. So we appreciate that. I'm going to set it aside and put it in my own account for Quincy because Caleb has a gambling problem.
I do not have a gambling. Okay, maybe I have a gambling problem.
No, I'm giving it to Caleb.
I mean, you're not actually wrong, but
I'm giving it to Caleb every month. Okay, who would you most want to see replace Billy Napier at Florida? Your choices are this: Urban Meyer. You're not going to believe this clip later in the show. Urban Meyer, John Gruden, or is there any other complete imbecile that's out there? Because, I'll tell you what, this is not an imbecile. This would actually be a good hire. Can we put Alex Golish in there?
That's a candidate.
Let's put him in there because I think they would rather go for a big bang, but I don't think they're in that position like Tennessee that had to go to Josh Heupel.
If you're a Vol fan, you don't want to see Alex Golish there.
No, I want to see him succeed.
Yeah, but you don't want to succeed at Florida. And by the way, we talk about recruiting, Dave. We'll get to this later. Josh Heupel's offense is a better fit in Florida than it is anywhere else because of all the speed in that state.
Agreed, but I'm to the point where I think you can make up for that just with great recruiting like Heupel's done. So, but yes, Tennessee now is stacked at receiver. At Florida, if you ran that type of offense, you should be stacked at receiver. every single year like Tennessee is now. Tennessee next year isn't theoretically going to be as stacked and is going to have ebbs and flows.
Oh, they will be a receiver next year. Trust me.
Well, they will next year. But you know what I'm saying? They're going to have ebbs and flows, whereas at the University of Florida, Miami, schools like that, with that state, you should never have an ebb and a flow with receivers, right? You should always have 6 good receivers.
Yeah, it's weird. And you can maybe explain this a little better, Dave. But when I talk about recruiting and from different places, like, Louisiana and Mississippi seem to produce like those freakishly big athletes, like South Carolina too, like the freakish mix of size and speed. Florida just seems to produce freakish speed, like just straight up track stars, don't they?
Yes. The other thing that Urban Meyer, this whole thing, I can't wait to get to it. Okay, we're going to talk about the Vols. I can't wait to get to it because he says the great part about this is the reason I took the Florida job over the Notre Dame job. A lot of people don't know this, but I could spend every night at home on recruiting because I just had to go within 300 miles, which basically says, why can't Billy Napier do it? And I could do it, and I know how to do it, so hire me. I think John Gruden would take the job too. We'll talk about all that. But first, it is time for today's tough question, and it is brought to you by, well, the one and only Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones, Banks and Jones. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle. Not at Banks and Jones. Today's tough question is now.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Caleb Calhoun, let's go ahead and dig into it right now. And I want to ask you this question. If the season ended today, where would Nico Iamaleava be in the Heisman race? I have my column up. I do have a vote. I'll tell you what I think. But first, if this was the end of the year and you were sending in your vote, who would it be?
Well, if the season ended today in the Heisman race, Nico Iamaleava wouldn't even be among the 10 finalists right now. He just,
With the numbers he's put up and what you've seen with your eyeballs?
What I've seen with my eyeballs is one thing, but what I've seen with my eyeballs would factor in on where I would take him in the NFL draft maybe, but not, Nico Iamaleava is not even top 40 in passing yards so far this year. He's not top 15 in quarterback rating. He's not top, I'm looking at it now, he's not top 20 in passing touchdowns. It's really hard for me to look at those numbers. And also, Tennessee's signature win is against a really bad NC State team. Look, I think I have money on Nico Iamaleava winning the Heisman. I think he's going to win the Heisman. But if it ended right now, he wouldn't. You wouldn't even consider taking him to New York right now. Nobody would.
Then let me ask you a combination of questions, because that's the way I'm trying to write my column, and I hope people appreciate it. A combination of what you've seen to this point and what you believe will happen. So you've gone on record that Nico will win the Heisman this season. Caleb said that 6 months ago. He's either going to be right or wrong. We'll either laud him for his great ahead of the curve pick, or we'll make fun of him. Maybe a dunce cap will be involved. I don't know. But based off where you think it'll be, it's Nico. So let me phrase the question like this. Right now, based off what you've seen and what you project forward, who's his greatest challenger?
Okay, based on that, I think his greatest challenger is very clearly Cam Ward. I can't deny what Cam Ward's been doing so far. His numbers are through the roof. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards. He's got 11 touchdowns. He's got 1 interception, completing 73% of his passes. I look at that and I think, this guy's incredible. The other guy that so right now, my Heisman leader is Cam Ward. And as of right now, he's the best quarterback in football.
Okay, Cam Ward is number 2 on my list. Nico is number 3. Jackson Dart is number 4. Carson Beck is number 5. Now, this is, again, based off what I have seen and what I think will happen for the remainder of the season. So it's a combination of both. So who do you think my number 1 is?
So you said Jackson Dart is Jackson Dart and Carson Beck are behind Nico, and Cam Ward's right ahead of Nico.
I think, for the record, Nico and Jackson Dart are the best two quarterbacks in college football. And I think that will prove to be true when they're picked 1 and 2. Or they won't be in the same class, but when they're picked with one of the top selections, top 5 in the NFL draft. I will just go on record and tell you that.
Is Jalen Milroe number 1 for you?
I'll tell you after 30 seconds from Banks and Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. It is Jalen Milroe, and here's why. He is second in quarterback efficiency to Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has not played anybody. Milroe has at least played Wisconsin. And got a win there. And I don't think Wisconsin's world beaters. Nico is number 3, followed by Quinn Ewers. So, yes, Jalen Milroe, right now in my mind, I would project forward based off what I have seen and what I think will happen. And that could all change if Nico shows me a big win on the road. And I'm not really sure that a win-loss is a quarterback stat. We can have that debate at another time. But right now it would be Jalen Milroe. And I have a feeling you're about to flip your wig because you are not a big believer in Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe.
Well, okay. Because you were basing this because you're mixing in projections and production. Yeah, I'm losing my mind. If you were just going straight on production to this point, one, you wouldn't have Nico in your top 5 either. I mean, even you would have to acknowledge me on that if you went straight on production to this point.
Well, yes, but it wouldn't be because of your. It would be because of the. There's not a 3-game season, like COVID or something. But yes, he hasn't played really anybody. But NC State's not horrible. But I would have him in the top 10 based off what he's done. Based off the eye test as well. But we can debate that. And I think it's quarterback rating that's more important than yards, just for the record.
Okay, but where I'm getting at is the reason I'm losing it over you saying Jalen Milroe is because I don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be this effective throughout the rest of the year based on your standards of actually using projections. Okay, I hate to say this. I hate to stereotype, but Wisconsin's a slow football team, guys. I hate to stereotype that whole Big Ten, but guys, they're slow. And a running quarterback like Jalen Milroe is designed to be able to torch defenses like Wisconsin's. He's not designed in Kalen DeBoer's system to be able to do that against SEC defenses. I just don't believe it. And so I don't think Kalen DeBoer will be able to adjust his offense. If he does, guys, I'm going to say Kalen DeBoer's coach of the year. Right now, I'll say that if Jalen Milroe keeps this up throughout the season, given what Kalen DeBoer's offense is supposed to be, he is coach of the year for transitioning things to fit Jalen Milroe. And that's as impressive as what Nick Saban did for Jalen Milroe. I guess at some point I'm going to have to give credit to Jalen Milroe and not the coaches. But, if he does it, that's pretty darn impressive. I just think that that's an easy match at Wisconsin. And so I don't think that when you get to playing even the LSUs of the world, despite how poorly managed their defense is under Brian Kelly, I think they're too fast for Jalen Milroe to be able to do what he's been doing in Kalen DeBoer's offense.
Show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, BanksandJones.com. Give us an update on that poll question as to who should be the next coach at Florida. And we may have some Florida people in here, so you should vote for Alec Golesh. But if you don't, and you're not a Florida fan, then you can vote on one of the other goofballs on there, which is who, Caleb?
Urban Meyer and John Gruden.
Who would you most like to see get that job?
I mean, I like my programs. I like very Christian men to run very Christian programs with high ethics and morals. And Urban Meyer did that at Florida with Tim Tebow and the high character of the program that he ran. They were all choir boys at Florida when Urban Meyer was there. And I want a real good, solid Christian man to run my program like Urban Meyer.
Yeah, that's Urban. That's Urban, who also reminds you in that video that we're going to hear. He goes, yeah, I am Irish Catholic. It was hard to turn down Notre Dame. I still don't know if he, and he even said, I don't know if anybody's actually reported this or not. Maybe it's because it's not true. I mean,
he literally asked them, didn't he say, I need you guys to get rid of your academic standards? And they said no.
I don't think he was ever offered, to be quite frank with you, but maybe he was. But again, back to the Heisman. Who do you think is the greatest threat? Again, projecting forward, you don't think it's Cam Ward is the greatest threat to your prediction of Nico winning the Heisman, do you?
I actually think he's one of them, and this is what I said. I'll get to the other one, but okay. Projecting long term, here's why I say Cam Ward. Dave, sometimes really bad coaches can land the perfect fit for their system for 1 year and look like great coaches. And that's exactly what Gene Chizik and Gus Malzahn did when they landed Cam Newton, right?
Yes, and you could argue that Mike Vick elevated that crew from Frank Neubert from good to great, or that program from good to great, but it didn't maintain. Go ahead.
I think Cam Ward can do that for Mario Cristobal. Look, I thought that everybody had I had Mario Cristobal as my guy that was going to get fired at the end of the year because I thought Miami was just going to quit on him after what happened last year. But I did say in my caveat that Cam Ward from Washington State's a great pickup. Cam Ward led my Heisman race at the end of September last year before things fell apart.
Okay,
he's a really good quarterback, and he's in a great fit.
I just want to tell you this: who has played a more difficult schedule, Miami or Alabama to this point?
Oh, Alabama.
Okay.
Easily.
Jalen Milroe's passer rating is higher than Cam Ward's, 213 to 209.
Yeah, but that's okay. Passer rating versus total QBR is a little bit different. I'm a little more of a total QBR guy, and also.
Okay, so you're telling me that Nico, who by the way is number 12 with a 182, if you're telling me that he gets pulled at the first half of every game because you see the most electric offense in the history of college football, I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but let's just say that's the case, and he averages 250 yards a game, but Jackson Dart averages 390 yards a game, you're going to give it to Jackson Dart because of that?
No. I'm projecting on what I've seen so far to this point. Nico really hasn't had the chance to show off because he hasn't been needed to. But that's not going to happen throughout the year for the most part. Now, my projection, what my projection is, who the biggest threat to Nico Iamaleava is going to be throughout the year?
Now I'm curious. Who?
Because the media loves them, because the media can't stop talking about them, and because they make concessions for him that I've never seen them make for another coach if a coach said this stuff. Travis Hunter is going to be a threat to Nico. And because of Deion Sanders and that talk.
No.
That's crazy.
No.
Guys.
Do you want me to tell you why?
Why?
Because Heisman voters, we're people too. And I don't like the fact that he called a reporter out, banned a reporter, that he didn't have the class to handle that behind closed doors. I have never covered a coach that hasn't reached out to me, and behind closed doors, we had a problem and we hashed it out and it wasn't public. I've never had that happen. So I'll be honest with you. If I'm between Travis Hunter and Jackson Dart for third place on my Heisman vote, when I fill it out, that shouldn't be a factor in my mind, but it's going to be a factor in my mind.
But Dave, okay, I feel like Travis Hunter could be elevated from people who like Deion. My experience, I've never seen a player punished because people don't like their head coach. Have you?
Well, listen, if you were talking about Shedeur Sanders and they won 8 games and he plays quarterback, that's a different argument. You're already asking me to reach for a Charles Woodson type two-way player, which doesn't really happen anymore. You're asking me to reach for a defensive player, and then you're throwing Deion shenanigans on top of it. I think you just built a big mess.
Okay. I could see that. I could see Shedeur and Travis Hunter down there. Just to give you an example, it was nowhere near the same. But Dave, let's be honest. Relative to the rest of college football, in the 90s, Steve Spurrier was the brashness version of Deion Sanders, wasn't he?
Except he could coach.
No, I know that, but he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way with his behavior, didn't he?
Never reporters.
Never reporters.
Yeah, I don't think John would mind me telling this story. Hit like and subscribe if you want to hear an awesome story. So here's the way it used to work when coaches were accessible. The week that Tennessee would play whoever, Georgia or whatever, we would have Mark Richt on Sports Talk back in the day with John Wilkerson and Jimmy Himes. And the only person that we didn't get was Spurrier, just because he didn't believe in talk radio. I mean, this is a long time ago, guys. Okay. And so, but I will tell you that he had John Adams' personal cell phone number and would call him the week of the Florida game and do an exclusive interview with him that John hadn't even requested. And that's where those quotes popped up from Steve Spurrier gigging Tennessee the week before the Tennessee-Florida game. They weren't complimentary quotes. One time it was to this tune. It was, he just wanted to talk about Pat Summitt. You know, I respect Pat Summitt so much. You know why? Because she wins championships. That's what she's a championship coach. And I really respect championship coaches. Well, Philip Fulmer didn't have one. It was an obvious slap in the face to him. It was a column about Pat Summitt before the Tennessee-Florida game. Where do you get other information like this? Hit like and subscribe. Turn the notifications on. Ring the bell. If you'd like, give Quincy Calhoun some college money with one of the super chats. Caleb?
Okay.
No, so Steve Spurrier was beloved by the media, because I guarantee you did that with the Tallahassee paper too and the Miami Herald. So he was loved by the media. You're talking about somebody in Deion Sanders that is probably detested by most of the media.
No, and that's fair. That's fair. I'm going to have to reroute. And maybe that's why, to be fair, part of the media, they may not like the way.
By the way, Caleb, when you say reroute, you're basically saying, oh, I was wrong.
I am.
Okay.
No, I'm acknowledging it. I don't run from it. No, you have a great point. And the more I think about it, I should have known better, because I do this as a media person too, because I love Spurrier. And it does. I maintain that I think the reason I think one of the reasons Peyton Manning didn't win the Heisman. You talk about ESPN trying to prop up a competition. I think many media members despise Philip Fulmer because he wasn't a good interview, and they missed Johnny Majors, who's the best interview you could ever get. Is that crazy of me to think?
No, I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah,
no, I think that's spot on.
Yeah,
I
think
Philip and I had a contentious relationship at some points. We did. That's going to happen when things go downhill. That's going to happen when, as a young reporter, I said, the great thing about Jason Witten is you can line him up outside. And I got a phone call from Philip Fulmer in Knoxville at 8:30 in the morning in my office. And then I flew to LSU where they were playing. And so I don't want to say cursed out, but I'll say cursed out. So I got cursed out in Knoxville, flew to Baton Rouge, and on the field of Tiger Stadium, got cursed out again because I accidentally said something on the radio about Jason Witten lining up out wide. And I really didn't realize I was giving away specific information, but I was, and I was in the wrong. So, yeah, that's the difference between a coach and whatever the heck Deion Sanders is. Okay,
fair enough. So back to the point. That's fair. So you're right. Because of the anger at Deion Sanders, Travis Hunter could be punished. I'm just thinking, and I'm creating patterns out of history here, and I'm looking at Tennessee's history of losing the Heisman. It's to a losing team and a team that had a two-way player. Travis Hunter is going to be a two-way player on a losing team. I mean, and so it just seems like a perfect fit. I could just see it happening because of that.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, but you're saying if it came down to Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders, you think Shedeur Sanders would be a bigger threat before Travis Hunter, right?
Yes, but I don't think either will be a threat because I don't think they're going to win more than 5 games, and I think Deion's rubbed people the wrong way.
Yeah, he went from entertaining last year to I think people are it's his act is just tired now, honestly. I think that's the only, which we'll talk about later on the show, but his act really is just tired. But okay, so we got Cam Ward. I still maintain Cam Ward's going to be a legit threat. And I am going to stick with that, but I don't think Carson Beck will be a threat. I don't think Quinn Ewers will be a threat. I don't think Jalen Milroe will be a threat. So I'm going to go with Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, and I'm going to stick with Travis Hunter as the biggest threats to Nico Iamaleava.
Can I reset this a little bit? The poll question is up right now. And where do we stand on that poll question, by the way?
Who do you most want to see replace Billy Napier at Florida? Urban Meyer, John Gruden, and Alex Golesh. John Gruden leads at 42%, Alex Golesh at 38%, Urban Meyer at 21%.
Okay, I want to reset that because I want to, and it's really not so much to challenge Caleb or anything, or challenge me, because I think Nico has a great chance to win the Heisman too. But I'm curious where you are. So Caleb, can you set it up in some sort of format? Has great chance, good chance, no chance? You decide. Portions of the program are brought to you by Medicare Misty. Medicare Misty does not charge you for her services. And wherever you're watching this program, she's licensed in over 40 states, so she can certainly take care of you. That poll question in 30 seconds off the Hook Sports.
I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, Caleb, poll question now is?
What are Nico Iamaleava's chances to win the Heisman? Great chance, good chance, shot in the dark, no chance. And right now, 67% say good chance, 17% say great chance. That's fluctuating a lot more. Basically, good chance is leading, great chance, shot in the dark are fighting for second place, and then no chance. Nobody's saying no chance.
We're off and running, and Caleb literally said this earlier this morning when I made a statement that I think you're going to disagree with. I hope. I think there's still some sportsmanship in football.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Josh Heupel absolutely should not run up the score if he's given the opportunity. Caleb, let's set aside the question of will he if he's given the opportunity, because you and I agree that yes, he will, right?
Oh, absolutely. He absolutely will.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, he's at a point in the program where he needs to put his personal feelings aside. And he needs to just go out there and win football games for two reasons. More exposure to injury, number one. Number two, look what happened when Missouri threw out a whole new defense in 2023, Caleb. They beat Tennessee because Tennessee ran up the score on them the year before. So should he? Absolutely not. Will he? Yes. Is it kind of fun? Yeah, I'll give you that too. But he absolutely should not, Caleb, and I defy you to convince me otherwise.
You are so wrong on this for 18,748 reasons. Okay, let's get the Missouri point out the window for a minute. Yes, they threw a new defense at him, but Tennessee didn't have a quarterback who was a fit for the offense. They also, do you remember how injured they were in that game, Dave? I mean, they didn't have their go-to receiver in Brew McCoy. Dante Thornton got hurt on the first drive, who they had made their go-to receiver. They kept moving the ball in midfield, and then freak plays happened, like a Jalen Wright fumble. Was it Jalen Wright? It may have been somebody else. There were like a series of things that happened. A bad snap that killed a drive. There were just random things that happened. That game could have been a lot closer.
You know, the one you did mention, too, that I think we underrated, but it happened, was Keenan Pili. I mean, this defense looks a lot more organized now with Keenan Pili in there. I think that could be worth a game. I think he's that good of a player.
Oh, I totally agree. Take away a fumble, take away a bad snap, put Keenan Pili out there, and Tennessee's probably beating Missouri 24-21 last year on the road. And so that's with Eli Drinkwitz throwing a whole new thing in and going, "We stand on business, Josh." Okay, so I didn't do the whole thing. You do that one better.
Stand on business, Josh. That's how he said it. He said it like really weird.
Yeah, so that's point number one.
Okay, but I think that's immature and stupid too.
Point number two, Tennessee isn't going to play Oklahoma on a yearly basis. They're not.
You don't think Venables is going to get them to the SEC championship game?
This year? No. And
no,
two,
I meant next year.
And two, as I've told you guys 1,000 times, I would never try to win the SEC championship game. I would throw it every single year. I am never trying to win that title game with this college football playoff format. So
that's pure silliness. But anyway.
Yeah. And so that's number two. Wait, number three. I mean, even more importantly.
Okay.
The next time Tennessee plays Oklahoma, I'm willing to bet Brent Venables is not there. So the other coach wouldn't have anything to be angry about. So run it up. Let everybody know they should have hired you.
May I ask an honest question that, hey, if you know on the message board, I'm just curious because I get paid for a living by some fantastic sponsors and advertisers, and we want you to support them all because I bet them they're legit. They're incredible. Especially when I think City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters. Why spend thousands of dollars on a new unit? You might just need a part, or you might just need some coolant, so you can save thousands of dollars. But can I ask you honestly, I don't know how the rotation works with who Tennessee plays in 2025 and down the line. We used to know who they played, and now I got to be honest, Caleb, I don't know how it works. Do you? Do we know?
I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna keep the rivals and then alternate everybody else. They don't have a schedule beyond this year. They have mismanaged grossly.
Wouldn't you think Oklahoma would come to Knoxville next year?
No, as a matter of fact, I think the Vols 2025 SEC schedule is out. I'm pulling it out now, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Let me pull it. I could be dead wrong.
Okay, totally yeah. Wrong. I mean, it's so goofy to include Oklahoma and Texas in this.
Oh wait, no, you're right. Oklahoma is next year. Okay, so they have Oklahoma. Oklahoma does go to Knoxville next year, but Oklahoma goes to Knoxville next year. Who cares? Run it up. See, Tennessee had to go to Missouri last year. And Oklahoma goes to Knoxville in November next year. What I'm looking at on the schedule as of right now, assuming nothing changes, Tennessee – well, no, there is no date yet. I take that back. But Tennessee is going to play Oklahoma in Knoxville. Run it up. Run it up. Run it up. That Missouri thing was a fluke. Yes, Eli Drinkwitz shifted the whole offense. Tennessee was playing at Missouri. They had one of their best teams in history. Tennessee was banged up, severely injured. And they didn't have a quarterback that was a fit for the offense. None of those things will be applying next year. And Tennessee was on the road. None of those things will apply when Tennessee plays Oklahoma next year. By the time they're playing Oklahoma next year, Brent Venables will be on the hot seat anyway, so Oklahoma will be quitting on the team. Run it up. And by the way, I say this without trying to attack Brent Venables. Brent Venables has shown Josh Heupel more respect than anybody else involved with Oklahoma, given what happened.
Then why would you run it up?
Because it ain't about Brent Venables. It's about Oklahoma. Run it up.
Best revenge is living well, Caleb. Not to mention, what about sportsmanship? I mean, I know you, younger generation, you're like, run it up. It's fine. And I've always been of the mindset that it's the other team's responsibility to stop you. Now, that even goes back in the 80s and 90s, okay? When I was a kid, I thought, well, it's your fault if you can't stop them. So I'm on the same page, but I can tell you there are a lot of people, mostly older people, that say that donate and say, man, that's that nice score there and that onside kick last week. That was it's kind of shady. Who we got here? Got a shyster or got a really good, great coach with integrity? Doesn't it chip away at your image?
You can debate last week it might. You can debate the last week one. You say my generation. Let me take you back 39 years ago. All right, let me take you back 39 years ago. Wait
a second. I got something outside the studio. Get off my lawn. Go ahead.
When the oldest millennial was 5 years old, okay, 39 years ago, there was a coach named Jimmy Johnson. He was coaching at Miami.
No.
And Miami played Notre Dame, and Notre Dame had a head coach named Jerry Faust, who was a longtime high school coach, was trying his way in the college level, and it wasn't working. But Dave, I think even you would agree, Jerry Faust was one of the classiest people to ever coach football, even though it didn't work out at Notre Dame.
Yes.
And it was his last game because he decided it didn't work out, so he was going to retire. And in his very last game, Miami decides, let's just run it up. Let me call a fake punt on 4th and 11 when I'm up about 40 in the fourth quarter. And just blows him out. And what did Miami say at the end? It wasn't about Jerry Faust. It was about Notre Dame. Because Notre Dame had been doing that to opponents for 40 years, and people were mad that it was done to Notre Dame. This ain't about Brent Venables. Brent Venables, I love you. I think you're a good guy. You do seem like a good guy, Brent. You seem like a decent guy. You have spoken very highly of Josh Heupel. This ain't about you. Josh Heupel's got some bones to pick. He's got some scores to settle. And you know what, Dave? I said this to you the other week. The way you should live your life is not the way you should – people are like, football is like life, and it's a great lesson in life. No, it's not. The way you live your life is not the way you should approach sports. You should live your life trying to better everyone around you, trying to uplift people for your own self-fulfillment, and hoping for the best for everyone, and hoping what's best for you and society and your community as a whole. When you're playing a sport, that's not your focus. Your focus is to rip the heart out of the competition. Okay, your job is to rip the heart out of the other side. So it's totally different. It's why Michael Jordan's the best player of all time, because Michael Jordan, there was a great comparison I heard one time, David, Michael Jordan versus Muhammad Ali, where Muhammad Ali would try to knock you off your game. Michael Jordan didn't want to knock you off your game. He wanted you at your best when he faced you. So then when he beat you, you knew there was nothing you could ever do. He wanted your soul snatched out of you. And Josh Heupel should want to snatch the soul away from every single Oklahoma fan. Even if he's wrong, he should think that he is bigger than Oklahoma.
Okay, let me ask you this. And it's really simple. Who's the classiest coach now in college football?
The classiest coach in college football?
I mean, it's I've been thinking about the whole time you've been talking. I've been listening, but it's kind of hard to come up with one.
Sam Pittman's actually a pretty classy guy. Look at where that gets him.
Okay. Look where that gets him. Okay. Put it on the poll question. You would like for Josh Heupel to be Jimmy Johnson brash or Sam Pittman style? I want to specifically use those two guys, if you don't mind. So put that on the poll questions. Portions of the show are brought to you by, because I'm going to tell you who it is. Portions of the program are brought to you by our great friends at the Hemp House. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10%. HOOK for 10%. So let's not talk about the X's and O's. Let's not talk about the success. Let's just talk in a perfect world. If you're building a perfect coach, would you rather him be brash like Jimmy Johnson, or who you may not remember, Caleb, but before the 92 NFC Championship game, the Friday before they played at San Francisco, he was interviewed, and it sounds very much like a Spurrier setup interview back at the time. And they asked him, so what do you think about the game? He gave an exclusive interview to the Dallas paper, maybe in Skip Bayless. And he said, we'll win the game. Just flat out called it. And they were like 10-point underdogs. I mean, in retrospect, you think, of course, Dallas could win that game. But you didn't think so at the time. They had Jerry Rice, and all these guys. And you thought that they were definitely going to go to San Francisco and lose. So which would you rather have, Tennessee fans, or college football fans that are out there in our message board? Vote on the poll question now. But Caleb, which would you prefer your coach to be?
See, I'm so much like just win, baby. I don't really care. But like if it's between the two, it's Jimmy Johnson. Largely because I think Jimmy Johnson is brash, but he's brash in a way that connects with players. And, I want to bring a little bit of a cultural background to this and why I've always liked Jimmy Johnson. And Dave, just bear with me real quick on why I think he was so successful at Miami. Jimmy Johnson was raised an old white redneck from Arkansas, right?
Yes.
And connected with urban inner city black kids better than any coach you could think of. And I think the reason was Jimmy Johnson was the first. And we've seen a lot of coaches do it since, but this is, in a post-racial America in the 1980s was one of the first coaches to realize, me as this poor redneck from Arkansas, I got more in common with these inner city kids who also grew up with nothing. We got more in common with each other than we have than we do with other people at the top and, than a bunch of rich people. And I think he realized that, and I think they connected, and I think he developed a rapport of it's us against the world together. I think Jimmy Johnson was one of the first really to cash in on that concept that many coaches have.
The other one that did it, the other one that was very similar, but he wasn't half the coach, was Barry Switzer.
He was. You're right. He was. He connected with players,
which
like
I'd never thought about before. But he wrote a story about his dad was a bootlegger or a book. He goes, I think the name of the book is My Dad's a Bootlegger. Mac Brown probably would have been a better selection than Sam Pittman.
Yeah, Mac. You could also say Philip Fulmer, but it's Well, maybe you, Dave, you're clouded. You know too much with
Okay.
Philip Fulmer. You
Just
know a little too much.
Move on from that one.
But Philip Fulmer, you know this, Dave. Philip Fulmer tried his hardest to not run up the score on teams. He really did. He did not like to humiliate opponents if he could help it.
I'm not just talking about that aspect. I mean, brashness is calling the president of the university 90 times in 10 days while the head coach is on the operating table getting a triple bypass.
Okay, but hold on. There's more.
I mean, that's worse than running up the score. That's worse than run up the score against Kent State.
Can I tell you an inside story real quick in defense of Philip Fulmer with the Johnny Majors thing that I actually have just recently learned?
Sure.
And I've learned this off the record. I can't really, but some of the rumors and reporting are that, when Fulmer took over Tennessee and then they won the SEC in 89 and 90, and they won it twice. And Fulmer was the hottest head coaching commodity anywhere. And he was actually really entertaining jobs. Johnny Majors reportedly told Philip Fulmer, begged him to stay on staff as an assistant, and said, "This will be my last contract and you'll be the head coach afterward." So when Johnny Majors then goes in 92 and complains publicly about his contract and asks that they extend it, I think Fulmer has every right to feel a type of way to try to undercut Johnny Majors at that point.
Hey,
if that's true.
Listen, I got no problem, but it's brash. It was the right thing for the program, and it was aggressive, but it's brash. I'm not saying it's morally wrong. I mean, when you're in that position, if you love your university and you honestly believe, I wouldn't call 90 times, but
how do we know that? We know 90 phone calls were exchanged. It could be just as much that Doug Dickey was talking to Fulmer as much as it was Fulmer was talking to Dickey. I mean,
right.
it could, like, what is Fulmer supposed to do? Johnny Majors was out. Iowa took over, and I happened to beat 2 top 25 teams. Unless you think Fulmer threw those games against South Carolina and Arkansas as a coordinator. Maybe you think he did. I don't know. You tell me, Dave. Do you think Fulmer purposely threw those games?
No,
to get the job?
I don't think he ever purposefully threw games. I tell you what, I'm not going to go way back. No, I wasn't bringing up Sam Pittman's appearance. Mac Brown would have been a lot better. So, the poll question: what are Nico Iamaleava's chances to win the Heisman? Good chance, 54%. Shot in the dark, 27%. Great chance, 16%. No chance, 1%. The poll question is up now. Would you prefer Josh Heupel to be like brash Jimmy Johnson style, classy Sam Pittman style, or classy Mac Brown style? Because he won a championship, so those are a little bit more comparative, I would say. Click that like and subscribe button. Do it now. If you want to do the super chat thing, we don't ask a lot, but it will go to Quincy Calhoun's college fund. So you're welcome to do that if you would like. It goes straight to Quincy. Caleb's not even allowed to touch it legally the way I've set things up. That's not true, because Caleb has a game. No, he doesn't have a gambling problem. All right, so coming up on the program, this is maybe the thing that we all need to hear, because we just think that Tennessee's going to roll and roll and roll, and I'll have my prediction later in the program. But there's some Sooners you need to be aware of. 5 Sooners to watch coming up momentarily, and that will be brought to you by Neubert Collision Center. Hang tight for 2 minutes.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2018 Ford Mustang convertible, $24,550. 2023 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend, $29,789. 2022 Ford Escape SEL all-wheel drive, $26,975. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Is it okay to have a name that's just a letter? Can you put that on the poll question? Is it okay to have a first name that's just a letter?
We're not going to attack people for their names on this show. I never do that, and I never will.
My last name's Hooker. Don't I get a little leeway?
Yes, but we're having jokes with you on that.
Okay. Well,
And you own it.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, can we joke about it a little bit?
There was a player for Louisville in basketball back in the day named Luke Whitehead. And I'm like, oh, gosh, your last name's Whitehead. One, he was black, so it really sucked. But two, Whitehead is awesome.
I mentioned to Fred White one time, we were doing radio, and I said, Fred, what about we call your segment the White Way? And he just goes, no.
You know what you should have done? You should have it. You should have him do a segment that's called "If It Ain't White, It Ain't Right."
Oh, wow. Definitely don't want to do that. All right. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll talk about why Oklahoma may actually have a pirate on their football team. You get it? All right.
Why couldn't the 12-year-old pirate get into the movie?
It was R-rated.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty there.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
4 Downs brought to you today by Sports Treasures. I'll tell you more about them here momentarily and how you can win great prizes. But we have some Sooners to look at that we're going to do sooner rather than later. Okay. All righty. I'm done with that. Cooper Mays, what should the people do out there if they want to be a part of the program weekdays at 10 a.m.? And I encourage those that watch clips of the program, be sure and watch the whole thing because there's a lot of information in there. So you want to watch the whole thing, set aside 2 hours of your day right now.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right, Coop, what down?
Coop here. First down.
What sooner do I need to watch?
All right, we're going to start with the one weapon they have on offense who could actually be a threat right now. They're wrecked at wide receiver. But Deion Burks has 22 catches for 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had all 3 touchdown catches in their opener against Temple, but in terms of yards, he's gotten better each game. Had 7 catches for 80 yards last week. Tennessee secondary, still somewhat improving. If anybody's going to test it, it's Deion Burks.
Deion Burks, and give me the 4th since we got 4 downs and 5 players.
You said 4th, the way Lou Holtz would say 4th right there. I heard that.
4th down.
4th is this. I actually could have him higher because he's the quarterback of the defense, and I'm talking about Danny Stutzman for the middle linebacker for Oklahoma. Leads the team in total tackles with 33 and solo tackles with 31. Brent Venables, for those who don't know his defense, uses many different coverage schemes and confusing coverage stunts to catch quarterbacks off guard. And the middle linebacker is right at the heart of that. And so that's Danny Stutzman's going to be the heart of trying to confuse Nico Iamaleava. And so Tennessee needs to be prepared for everything he's doing in that game.
He most often goes, it's funny you bring that up, and we'll talk about it a little bit, but he most oftentimes goes to one over the top free safety, which opens a certain something up, which we'll discuss later. Which Sooner are we talking about next? Brought to you by Sports Treasures in North Knoxville, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow for the latest on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right, who's next?
All right, so going to the secondary, both Connie Walker and Des Malone, the two cornerbacks, they are both lockdown corners, Dave. So
doesn't Connie Walker sound like it would be somebody in a 70s sitcom like Laverne and Shirley, like Connie and Georgiana or something?
Kind of does, but he's amazing. So, so he's been tested more than Des Malone this year so far, which is why he has 3 pass deflections and an interception, but he's the better one of the two. So I got him on there instead of Des Malone. Lockdown corner. Look, if Nico Iamaleava is going to be a Heisman guy, Dave, and you and I still project it. Part of being a Heisman guy is being able to target superstar cornerbacks and being able to beat them, right? One-on-one.
Yes.
It's like part of being a great pitcher is being willing to pitch to Barry Bonds on steroids and strike him out, isn't it?
Yes. How about a police drama? Connie and the Mac.
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
No, why? I think that's such a funny name. Who's next on the Sooners to watch? Because I'm telling you, their defense is very good.
And this is where you're going to have your fun because R. Mason Thomas.
Okay. R. Mason Thomas. That's his name. Do we know what the R stands for?
I actually don't, funny enough.
Okay. Well, I did a little research, and
it's not a period, so I think it's just an R. I think it's just
he does not like a period after it. So it's just R. Literally R. Mason Thomas. Now we can make fun of his name if you can make fun of his name. I'm not making fun of anybody. Except you can make fun of his name if you want to, but he won the Bronco Nagurski Award last week for taking over the game against Tulane, which was very losable headed into the fourth quarter. What did R do? R. Mason Thomas, he's a 4-star recruit from Florida, by the way. His dad played for the Gators, but he goes and has 3 sacks in 1 quarter, forces a fumble, recovers a fumble, has another quarterback hurry. He's an absolute wrecking ball at the end of the game. So, Caleb, he's a guy like James Spears that could change the whole face of the game if he's not accounted for. Now, he's worked his way to that point, and I'm kind of wondering, was it because they were playing Tulane and he was fresh? I don't really know, but if he plays like he did against Tulane, against Tennessee, then you've got a totally different game than what you and I are thinking could happen.
Yes, R. Mason Thomas is the biggest threat on defense. He has been the most productive of all the defensive players on either side of the ball this year. He was getting a lot of pressure before that quarter when he exploded. I'm mad about it because it cost me because I picked Tulane to cover the 13-point spread, and without R. Mason Thomas, they would have covered that 13-point spread, but Oklahoma ended up winning by 15. So I needed to, I broke my TV and started crying in my underwear out of anger because all of that college money you guys were sending me for Quincy just went right out the window. But I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yes, he is incredible. And also, look, Tennessee's tackles are good, but they're raw. And can I safely say, Dave, they've had some gaffes on the year?
Yes. Now, I want to tell you what the R stands for. Here's what the R stands for, and it's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Rick Terry and Jewelry Design's nice enough to bring us the Rick Terry Great 8 Challenge, which means just by being a free member of Hooker's Corner that you can be in line to win, wrong one, that you can be in line to win a Garmin watch worth over $1,000. All you have to do is be a free member of Hooker's Corner. The QR code's right there. Now, if you want to be a paid member, we'd love that for $9.98 a month, and you get increased recruiting coverage, and you also get more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun. So you can be a paid member and you'll be eligible for the monthly prizes, which is a pick six glossies of Tennessee's defensive backs autographed by the Vols. You can be in that drawing, which we will hold tomorrow, actually, as we approach the end of the month. Or you can, it's next Friday, or you can just be a free member, just be free, and you'll be, once we hit 8,000 subscribers, we're going to give away a Garmin watch. All right, so here's the explanation why he's named R. Okay, I'm being serious, Caleb. I'm not making fun of anyone's name, okay? This is a kid.
I'm listening. I'm ready.
This is a kid. Quote, it doesn't stand for anything. It doesn't stand for anything, said Thomas. Instead of Thomas said, he wanted to be more active, to the writer that wrote this. It doesn't stand for anything. Some people put a period there. My first name is R. Mason. There's a space in between the capital R and the capital M. My mom didn't want me to be an R name, like Richard or Raymond. But on her side of the family, there's a lot of R names. Dad, her grandfather, my uncle, her brother. Even his son's name starts with an R. She didn't want an R name, but she wanted to keep the R going, so she made it R. Mason.
Okay, sound logic. Sound logic.
It's the most absurd thing I've ever heard of. I'm sorry. Come on.
I mean, it is, but I'm not going to say anything. Some people take family seriously, but yes.
So you see my name down at the bottom of the corner. What is my name?
D. Davis Hooker. Well, we all know hookers love D.
I don't know what that means. All SEC center.
All right, C. Jacob Calhoun. What do you got?
My little brother's name is Jacob.
Oh, cool. All right.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith. His name is my name too. Literally, we can sing that song because his name's John Jacob Calhoun. Mine's John Caleb Calhoun.
That's very strange. Hit like and subscribe if you think that's odd and that Caleb's parents should have avoided such nonsense. That's like
My dad listens to the show, by the way.
That would be, yeah. Well, Mr. Calhoun, you got to switch that up. Same thing with me. I wouldn't name my daughter Ima. All right, Coop.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here.
All right. Let's go, Caleb. Who's number one?
Number one
is it Jackson Arnold?
Is obviously Jackson Arnold. He leads the team in passing and rushing. He's everything that Tennessee hoped Nico Iamaleava will be. That's exactly what Oklahoma fans hope he will be. So he's obviously got to be number one. I don't know if he can live up to it yet. It's been hit and miss with him early, but in his defense, he's had little help. But Tennessee's going to have to contain him, which is why I said Keenan Peele was the most important defensive player yesterday in this game. So, but Tennessee, yeah, they're going to have to. Jackson Arnold can give them problems if they're not careful, and they're going to have to be careful on that.
I agree. He's better than Grayson McCall, which is the best quarterback that Tennessee has seen to this point. But he's definitely not even in, I would say, the elite quarterbacks you would throw out there to me based off play and what I've seen. Be like Shedeur Sanders, Nico, Carson Beck, those type of guys. He's not even close to that. And I don't think he's in the great category. I think he's in the very good category. Is that fair?
No, totally fair. Totally fair to say. I totally agree with you on that. I think he could be great. I mean, I'm not sure I'm not sure they should have run off Dylan Gabriel for him though. But early on it looked like
I don't really know the backstory. Did they run him off or did Oregon pay more money?
They ran him off. They wanted Jackson Arnold from the start. The same way Josh Heupel ran off every quarterback on Tennessee's roster to try to make room for Joe Milton in 2021. They ran off Dylan Gabriel. And they were going with Jackson Arnold the whole time. And so
interesting.
It was so
I don't know why they did that. I mean, Dylan Gabriel, it seems like both parties would have been better off if they would have stayed together.
Yeah, but they wanted Jackson Arnold.
Okay. Strange. Maybe he's better than we think. Peak IV hydration. If we can drop that in the chat, peakivhydration.com. Even if you don't live in Knoxville, check out the reviews. They have locations in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Fast and effective. They've got these patches that'll give you energy and will give you the nutrients that your body needs when it gets dehydrated. So you don't have to be there in person. That's why they've got over 100 5-star reviews. So if you can drop that in there, peakivhydration.com. And I want to get to this day in Tennessee sports history. This day in Tennessee sports history, I don't think will be the video that I saw earlier today that explained why Neyland Stadium has lights. Are you familiar with that story? Because I can guarantee you that you're going to do one of your long form videos on this because it's incredible. Have you heard this story?
Didn't Joe Paterno demand the lights at Neyland Stadium?
Well, he didn't necessarily demand them. He wanted more exposure, so he wanted to play Tennessee. And so he played at Tennessee. And then so they were supposed to return, the home and home, and they balked out of it. I guess the contract wasn't as tight as it needed to be, but somehow Tennessee got out of it. So they talked about playing in Memphis, and that got nixed. So then Joe Pa said, we want to play under the lights. And so Bob Woodruff, the AD at the time, said, yeah, we'll make that happen. He didn't have the approval from the board of trustees to put lights in the stadium. So he managed to get that done. And do you know which quarterback started for Tennessee in that game in his first start?
Condredge Holloway.
Very good. Very good. Very smart cat.
I knew a lot of this. I didn't know that how all the negotiations went. But guys, this should give you an idea of why Tennessee fell so hard after in the Bill Battle era and Johnny Majors had to rebuild them.
Can I finish one funny part real quick? The funny part is he wanted exposure, Joe Pa, because he didn't feel like he was getting enough exposure for his program, and they couldn't get in a national championship game. As it ends up, it was under the lights, but the game wasn't televised.
That is kind of ironic. That's actually really ironic. Well, I guess it's safe to say Joe Paterno found an assistant coach who knew a good bit about exposing. Sorry. Okay, so what I was going to say was that, I'll get to this day, but the interesting part about that is Tennessee was they were so hostile to any sort of changes for a period of time in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And it was only about a 7-year run under Doug Dickey, which I'm sure you know, Dave, where they were trendsetters again. And during that 7-year run, look at how successful the athletic department was. They led the way in integration. They led the way in changing the stadium and a bunch of different things. But then this has been a problem with Tennessee for all of history, and it actually led to the decade of dysfunction too. They get a taste of success, Dave. And what do they do once they get that success? They rest on their laurels and what made them successful. And they don't think that, this just because it made us successful now doesn't mean it'll make us successful in the future. That's exactly what led to the decade of dysfunction, isn't it? It was, it's the 90s. We can just hire a coach and he'll be good no matter what. And they kept thinking that.
Yes. And I think that administrators don't understand the difference between being a top 15 recruiting program and a top 5 recruiting program.
They didn't. They did not understand that at
There's
all.
a world of difference.
Huge
That's
difference.
That's why I think Josh Heupel, his greatest days are ahead, because he's proven he can recruit and hang. He's proven he's probably a better X's and O's and game plan coach. So what happens, Caleb, if he continues to recruit at the level he is and then ups it based off what we think is going to be the success that he will have? Bold predictions. Did we want to get to this day?
We have to do an actual this day, yeah.
Oh, okay. This day in Tennessee sports history. I'm sorry.
It is the 26-year anniversary of another win over Florida. Probably the greatest win over Florida Tennessee ever enjoyed. The 1998 win over Florida, where Collins Cooper missed the field goal wide left still looked like it was made, honestly, when I look at it from the TV angle. It's hard. I was shocked when they ruled it no good, honestly. But missed it wide left, and Tennessee beat Florida, and fans stormed the field, and that led to Tennessee win the national title.
Yep. And we'll tell you in how about just a second what broadcasting major, I was covering that game, what broadcasting major that played defensive back for Tennessee ran up and gave me the biggest, sweatiest hug after the game, like I was a part of the team because we had class together. And no, it wasn't Fred White. Give me 2 minutes off the hook sports, and coming up, my bold predictions for Tennessee, including my game predictions. And I've been spot on. I'll prove it. I got receipts. 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm D. Davis Hooker off the hook sports.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2025 Ford Explorer 4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
If all the natural beauty around here looks a little fuzzy to you, you may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard!
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Caleb and I are very honest, maybe to a fault. But Caleb is honest when his gambling picks are horrible. I will be honest at some point if I do not correctly pick the flow of the game. If you follow me on Twitter at the Dave Hooker, you'll know that I've just been absolutely on fire when it comes to Tennessee. So, and I'm going to prove it, because I know some of you are like, oh, I don't know. I mean, you know, Dave could just be saying this. Who's got receipts for this guy? I don't know why I'm doing that voice, Caleb. Do you have any idea why I'm doing that voice?
I have no idea. I was trying to figure that out myself, and I couldn't figure it out.
Okay, thank you. So I'm trying to figure out. There it is. Okay, so let's pull this up. This is by a gentleman who's like a nuclear physicist, D. Davis Hooker with Caleb Calhoun. As we want to share this screen, this is from Ron Collins. Now, I don't know who Ron is, but I appreciate his support. He seems like a great man. Caleb, read Ron's post, if you don't mind.
Okay. My prediction is whatever Dave Hooker says. He has been within a few points of nailing it on every game this year. Check out his prediction versus final score. 63-13, 69-3, 52-17, 51-10, 70-3, 71-0. Look at that. Ron Collins sending Dave Hooker a shout out.
Yeah, and this guy's got like 1 million YouTube guys, and he's like a nuclear physicist or something. I tried looking at his website, and I really don't know what he does. But the fact that he would give me a shout out and he's way smarter than me, I thought was pretty cool. And I'm terrible at picking games, but I've just been red hot. So we'll get to my pick. When we get to bold predictions about those Tennessee Volunteers. So, Caleb, that is on the website. People can read that at your leisure, but I've got 5 bold predictions for the Tennessee Vols, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. All right, so let's start with this. Number 1, the Vols will have 3 sacks in the game. I say that because Tennessee has a fantastic group of defensive linemen that go 3 deep, and you have a Oklahoma offensive line that has been beat all to Hades. So do you agree or disagree with that, Caleb?
That's 1,000% true. I mean, I'm willing to say that is like the truest statement of statements. I might set it at 5.
Hey now. I like it. Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava will be the star. Now, that's a broad terminology, so I didn't want to put 350 yards or anything. So I've done a lot of studying of Oklahoma and defensively what they like to do under Brent Venables. And because I'm a nerd and I have nothing better to do at 3:45 a.m. So he likes to bring his safety up. He's going to stop the run first. And Tennessee may be able to run the ball with a loaded box. I think their offensive line is very good. So they may be able to run the ball with a loaded box. But I don't think so. I think they'll take more shots downfield. I'm talking about really downfield, like the Brazil completion. As I'm not talking about slants and all that sort of thing. I think they're going to take some real shots downfield because they're going to play one safety over top. Now, you could see Brent Venables do something completely different, then everything changes. But he wants people in the box. He wants to stop the run. So I think the shots are going to be there. And if I'm him, I don't think this is the correct line of thinking, but I think it's the way coaches think. You're going to be like, I'm going to make that redshirt freshman prove it to me. And if he proves it to me and has a great day, then I'll just say that I lost. Can you see that going through his mind this week?
3 reasons I fully agree with you, but there's 3 points I want to make, and they bolster your point, but they also reveal something. The first is yes, and I think even more so now in the college football playoff era, I think coaches are not afraid to test something in a game, even if it costs them, because you can still make the playoff. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So that part's true. I fully agree with you because what did I say at the beginning of the year? What have I said since January? Oklahoma will be Nico Iamaleava's breakout game. It'll be exactly what it was for Peyton Manning against Arkansas in 1995 when he just lit up Arkansas and had his coming out party. So I'm totally 1,000% on your side with this. But 3, what you said is very revealing, Dave, with him bringing up a safety, because I was concerned, and I think a lot of Tennessee fans have been concerned the last time Heupel faced Venables. He was the offensive coordinator at OU. Venables was the defense coordinator at Clemson. Oklahoma's offense scored 6 points in that game, and then Heupel got fired. And it was, does Venables have Heupel's number? Well, what you just told me actually jives with Bob Stoops trying to force the RPO, the read option system on Heupel when he doesn't run that. And Dave, let's call it what it is. Cheating up a safety, that is the best way to stop the RPO offense, isn't it?
That's exactly what he wants us to do. That's exactly what he wants to do, and that's what he wants to stop first.
And it's not a matchup for the air raid offense, is it?
No.
And Josh Heupel has air raid principles.
Yes. So you're exactly right. So my next statement is relative. Again, so I don't know how bold these are. You can decide, but I'm just telling you what's going to happen in the game, and I've been spot on to this point. Brent Venables will stop the run. Now, you can define that however you want to. You can define that as he'll come out and stop the run for a quarter, and Tennessee will open things up and then end up running the ball later in the game. So Tennessee could still have 100, 125 yards. But I do not believe this will be one of those games that they're able to push their opponent around and get 250 yards. Like North Carolina, NC State, if they wanted to, they could still be running the football against NC State, right? that's not going to be the situation unless the score gets out of hand.
Yeah, no. And
I'm not discounting, and I want to be clear, I'm not discounting Tennessee's offensive line. So, Coop, if you're watching, I just think he's going to walk people into the box, and they average giving up 2.2 yards per carry. So
I'm going to take it a step further.
Yes.
Y'all are doing it because of the last two things you said. Y'all are all doing a victory lap on me about Dylan Sampson. I'm going to give him another week. I'm going to give him this weekend. If Dylan Sampson balls out this weekend, Dave, I will come on Monday and say I was 100% wrong and I am done saying anything negative. But here's the thing. He will be tested in his ability to run the ball in this game. But, Dave, is it fair to say this too? He's going to be tested in pass pro finally in this game like he never has been, won't he?
Yes.
Because he's got to pick up those blitzes.
Yes, and there is actually a story up now where Cooper Mays talks about, if you want to go to Off the Hook Sports, talk specifically about the fact that Dylan Sampson and Deshaun Bishop saved a couple 3 sacks this year in their pass pro. The term is scratch where it itches. I learned from Coop, and you can learn on offthehooksports.com. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure the notifications are on too, because we've got a lot of big things coming down the pike. Later in the program, by the way, we're going to talk about the dumpster fire that is the Florida Gators with Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel. Next bold prediction, Tennessee's streak of no offensive touchdowns will end. Let's be honest. It's a cool stat. 4 games, 16 quarters, no offensive touchdowns. But look who it came against. I mean, the 2 ranked teams had horrible offenses. More so Iowa than NC State. I think Tennessee's just better defensively than when they played in the Citrus Bowl. But I think that streak comes to an end. I'll add to that if you would like, or would you like to address that one before I get to the next one?
You ready for this, Dave?
Yep.
You're wrong. Oklahoma's not going to score an offensive touchdown. They have the worst offensive line in the SEC, which is making their offense as bad as Iowa's and NC State's right now.
Right. And I've been around a lot of programs that did this. They suffered injuries early in camp and early in the season. And the idea is that all these guys, you're going to get them healthy, so you hold them back. They played their 3rd string center at times this season, guys, for those of you that don't know. Pardon me. So you put this group together that you think is going to be really, really good, Caleb, and they haven't played together. So they don't have chemistry. So even if they're suddenly, tomorrow all completely healthy, there's no chemistry there. So that goes back to the sack prediction, which I would probably up to 4 if I were.
It's not the same as you're right. There's a difference between playing a vanilla style and then putting it all together versus your first real opponent, which, by the way, Florida used to do. I know people would be like, why do the Florida quarterbacks always have their breakout game against Tennessee? I'm like, that's because that Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier was not going to show anything they could do before they played Tennessee. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter, right? And there's a difference between
you got this streak continuing of no offensive touchdowns to it would be only topped if they hold Oklahoma for 2 quarters without a score, then they would tie 2nd place, and that'd be 18 quarters, which I believe happened in the 60s. One happened in the 60s, one happened in the 50s, one was 18, one was 16. So they're at 16 now. At that point, if they were to hold Oklahoma scoreless for the first 3 quarters, that would be one of the most amazing records that is difficult to explain, so people don't get it a lot. But if they got to, that would be 19 scoreless quarters without giving up an offensive touchdown, okay? That would be the record going back to 60 consecutive quarters under General Nealon of not giving up an offensive touchdown. Caleb, that to me is an epic record.
And that's 60 quarters of not giving up a point with General Nealon. But yeah, no, it's an incredible record. And
in this day and age of college football, it's just,
that's even more unheard of. No, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Okay, so and then we get to what is my next prediction? Tennessee's defense will score, set one up. I believe in this. I probably believe in this one more than any of the other ones.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. They'll absolutely do that.
And by set it up, I'll give some parameters so that I can't say, oh, they set up a score in their own 20 and Nico took them 80 yards. I'll say within the 35-yard line.
Okay. They'll spot the offense the ball within the 35-yard line or score a touchdown themselves at one point.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it. All right. So are you ready for my final prediction for the game? Are you excited about that? Do we need a drum roll?
Lego.
Okay. Tennessee wins this football game 42-13 in a game that should be 35-13 under normal circumstances, but Tennessee will tack one on late because of the Josh Heupel Oklahoma ties. Caleb, your thoughts?
I am not giving a score prediction, but I will say just in the general vicinity, I'll say I agree with you.
Okay. Stat of the day, Edgar Thompson coming up to talk about the fact that, who knows, Urban Meyer may go back and coach at Florida, or they may call John Gruden, or they're in a complete dysfunctional mess like Tennessee was, which is pretty funny. 2 minutes off the hook sports, and we'll have our stat of the day as well.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2025 Ford Explorer 4x4 Active, $46,529. 24 Ford Big Bend Bronco 4-door, $40,949. 24 Ford F-150 Super Crew 4x4 STX, $46,214.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
If all the natural beauty around here looks a little fuzzy to you, you may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, welcome back to the program. We want to remind you that the program is brought to you in part, and I would like to pull those up, by our good friends at Work Trucks, as we want to get to, the stat of the day coming up next? Is that what we got going on before Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel?
Yeah, we could do stat of the day.
Okay. And we've done this day in Tennessee sports history. Sometimes I get them confused a little bit. But there we go. All right. So before we get to the stat of the day, it's brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, seriously, guys, if you're a contractor, take a little bit of time to look at worktrucksllc.com. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo trucks, utility body trucks with an iPod, work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you got to know Work Trucks with an X in Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. They'll find a perfect truck for you. Outfitted, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols, and it'll be fit to a T. There you go. WorkTrucksLLC.com. Do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. Coming up, we're going to talk about the dumpster fire that is Florida, as perhaps there's some Florida fans in our chat board or watching or however you do this thing, then you can certainly get the update, because I will go ahead and vouch for Edgar Thompson as one of the guys that, if we expand to cover the whole SEC, he'd be a guy that I'd want to hire because I think he's objective. I think he's very good. I thought the same thing of our guest from Oklahoma. His name's Mr. Hoover. His name certainly escapes me. Help, Caleb.
John Hoover. John Hoover.
John was fantastic. By the way, his video talking about what really went down at the that was a great idea by Caleb. What really went down with the Josh Heupel firing is a must see. So you know how dirty this is, because some of you think right now that, he just didn't do a good job. He got fired. It was a bad season by Oklahoma's current standards, and they went to the college football playoff, and that Josh Heupel changed up his game and reinvented himself. Well, part of that's true. That, yes, they made the college football playoff the next year, so you can't really argue with the change. But Josh Heupel was forced to run an offense he didn't want to run. So that's a must watch. And we don't want you to tune away now, but at some point, that's why you need to hit the like and subscribe button. That's why you need to make sure that your notifications on, because it's like next level stuff. It's an all-time record in terms of one video that we've had, and we highly encourage you to watch 2 hours. But if you only got about 20 minutes, you're going to be a smart cat around your friends when you talk about what happened Josh Heupel at Oklahoma. Stat of the day is, Caleb?
So, the last quarterback to win his first start on the road against a ranked team for Tennessee. Guess who it was, Dave? And I'll give you a stat.
The last quarterback to start. Say it again.
The last quarterback to win his first start on the road against a ranked team.
Ranked team or not top 15 team? I got the top 15.
Top 25. Just top 25.
Okay.
Ranked team.
All right. Well, I can play off this. Go ahead and give it to me. I think it's 2018.
Who are you thinking for 2018?
You tell me. I want to make sure I'm right.
The last quarterback to win his first start on the road against a ranked team for Tennessee was 2004 Eric Ainge against Georgia.
Oh, wow.
He was 12 of 21 for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And for those who don't remember that game,
I'm pulling up another good stat, by the way. Go ahead.
Georgia was number 3 in the nation that year. They were considered an easy national title contender, the runaway favorites to win the SEC. They had just blown out LSU the week before, and Tennessee had just gotten blown out by Auburn at home. Eric Ainge was a true freshman. And after getting blown out by Auburn, do you remember this, Dave? Kevin Burnett, the week of facing Georgia, says, "We will see Auburn again."
Yes, I do. And I thought he was completely crazy. Here's another stat that's really good. Tennessee hasn't beaten a top 15 on the road since when?
Top 15 team on the road since... Ooh. You
gotta go back.
I'm going to say Georgia 2006.
Good Lord, Caleb. That's no fun.
I'm pretty good, aren't I?
I mean, that's
when they hung 50 in Athens.
Wow. Thanks a lot. All right, it's time for Bank on It. Bank on It brought to you by Commercial Bank. And we're going to go ahead and get this part of the segment done because I don't want to put my next guy on the spot who's going to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit of Florida and how they're a complete disaster. But bank on it. Brought to you by our friends at Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC. Life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial banks, personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made better. Caleb, bank on it, yes or no? Billy Napier will not be the coach at Florida next year.
Yes, I'm banking on that. I'm putting a ton of money on that.
Okay. Let's bring in Edgar Thompson, and it's brought to you by Commercial Bank or the Orlando Sentinel, who's nice enough to join us if my button will work. And there he is. Edgar, how are you, sir?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I'm doing okay. I heard Caleb here is probably one of the safer bets. I'll tell you what I wonder. No, but I'm serious. I'm wondering how Florida's a 6-point favorite this week.
Over Mississippi State?
At Mississippi State, Napier 2-10 on the road, away from Gainesville. He's 7-0, and they've lost. They're 2-7 in true road games. I mean, Starkville's not easy to play at, and they play up tempo against this defense. And it's like, I'm not saying I put money on games ever, and I wouldn't on what I'm covering, but it doesn't seem like you should be giving Florida a whole touch. I mean, they're not just going to go in there and comfortably win, I don't think.
No, I wouldn't think so either. Edgar, how bad is it in Gainesville right now?
It's as bad. This is my 6th coach. Got into Gainesville 22 years ago, but I spent 5 or 6 covering NFL and golf in South Florida with the Palm Beach Post. Is who I worked with the first time I was up here. But it's as bad as it's been. I mean, the 4-8 year in 2013, there were a bunch of injuries, like Dominic Easley getting injured. Now Trey Wilson's not playing this week. That's a key injury, and they've had some, but it isn't like you're losing a game-wrecking defensive player. I don't even think they have one. I truly don't know who on this defense you even have to account for. And scheme around like, hey, we got to block that guy or make sure this guy doesn't beat us. That's the thing about this defense. It's alarming. And then offensively, it's just not an explosive offense. I mean, it was against Samford. Otherwise, not really.
Edgar, so I want to ask you the mentality down there, because I got to be honest with you. I don't think Billy Napier will be there next year. I'm not so sure he'll be there next month. I think Florida's in a world of trouble. And yet still, if I had to bet a mortgage payment on Tennessee to win a game this year, I would not bet Florida, because I just know Tennessee's history with Florida. And it just seems like no matter how good or bad one program is, Florida always beats Tennessee, most notably last year when Florida beat Tennessee in Gainesville when I thought Tennessee still had the better team. Is that how much of that sentiment still exists in Florida even now? Of we just beat Tennessee, no matter what the records are?
I think you can rest easy, Vols fans, this season. This defense, guys, it's giving up 508 a game and 2 losses. Miami and Texas A&M. Texas A&M comes in here really lacking offensively, you're thinking. And with a freshman quarterback who's never started a game. And they just ran circles around Florida. They're up 20-0 at halftime. Florida has not gone scoreless in the first half in the Swamp since 2015 against Florida State. And that was a 27-2 game where Dalvin Cook ran wild late in that game. It was pretty close until then, just a defensive struggle. This is just a really porous defense and doesn't create opportunities. 1 sack, 1 forced turnover in those 2 losses as well. So with that tempo and that attack, I mean, what are they averaging? 63 plus? Now, I get it. They've been playing nobody, but I don't think that's even a question. Florida's going to Knoxville, and it's going to probably be a bloodbath, if not, certainly a loss, if not a bloodbath.
I've seen things go south before under Butch Jones, Derek Dooley, Jeremy Pruitt, and I kind of knew I would hear things that I didn't report, Edgar, that I kind of knew that things were going south before maybe I was ready to report it, or maybe everybody knew. Curious, was there any moment where you said along the ways like this might not work out? And when was the first moment that you said it might not work out?
Well, hindsight's 2020, but I definitely was telling people even after the first season that I was seeing a lot of real red flags. And just the way the offense, you got Anthony Richardson, and now he wasn't always a willing runner. He did get dinged up pretty easily, it seemed. There was times where he kind of seemed to check out. But you're talking a transcendent player, and you're not getting but 26 total touchdowns out of the guy, and you're 6-7 or 6-6 with Anthony. That was kind of like, but the team did show some fight. There were a lot of double-digit deficits in that game where the Gators kind of fought back to make it a one-possession game before losing. But one of those games was Vanderbilt. You're losing at Vanderbilt for the first time since whatever it was, 1988, I believe. And like they didn't even know what to do. It was like a field storming that was the most polite thing you've ever seen, because they kind of shuffled down to the field. And I mean, they didn't even know what to do, the Vanderbilt fans. But I already was like, God, I mean, the staff was just not very good. It didn't seem the defensive staff, was very young. And he brought all these guys from Louisiana. And then you're at this level, you're hearing behind the scenes, certain players are like telling coaches, this is not the Sun Belt. I mean, players are saying this plan, schemes, these aren't going to work here. Against the best talent in college football, and they weren't working. So I was already kind of wondering, but then a long off season and you start believing a little more, right? And then they go 5-7, and then you're like, man, this isn't working. It's going to be over before long. Then you start sipping the Kool-Aid gently again. That's the one of the beauties, one of the blessings and curses of college football is it's an 8-month season or whatever. It's going to be a little longer now with the 12-team playoff, but it's very short. And if you don't go to a bowl game, it's really about 3 months. So you have all this build up and build up and build up, and you start believing, and they made these changes, and the roster's flipping, and blah, 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 the culture's, brotherhood and all this. And then you come into the season, you're like, okay. And then you're like, go to that Miami game, and you're like, what the heck? I had a bad feeling about that game, but I picked the Gators anyway. They just didn't show up. And then you're like, they whipped Sanford with the freshman quarterback, DJ Lagway, and you're like, yeah, showing a little juice. And then you're like, A&M's not that good. They'll beat them, split those 2 games. You're still on track. And they just got run. I mean, that game was 33-7 at one point.
Edgar, one of the things I learned later in my career, because when I started covering Tennessee, they had a great administration. I'm talking the chancellor on up. They did not have that in the decade that they went through, where they were just wandering in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like to me this isn't just a coaching change. This is going to be an AD change, and possibly way more.
Oh, it could be a thorough house cleaning when the dust settles. I don't think they're going to do it all at once. Scott Strickland, he cuts an impressive figure, speaks very well, is very good with the fundraising, the facility side of it, even though he inherited a tough situation. Jeremy Foley had left with lagging facilities. These coaches were all like playing behind the 8 ball until Billy got here. If you think about it, none of them had indoor practice facilities until McElwain. There was not a standalone until Billy's second year. They used to have to walk from like the swamp to the football field, like walk. And then Billy started busing them like 400 yards just to save the load management or whatever. So anyhow, it was tough there, but he's been given everything, Billy, right? Everything. Support staff, recruiting budget, facilities, all this stuff, and hasn't made much of it, or if any, much at all. And, Scott Strickland is put all those pieces in place, but what he hasn't done is hired the right people. Dan Mullen, I thought, was a pretty good hire, but he knew what he was getting with Dan. He couldn't manage him in the end. The recruiting lagged. Dan kind of checked out in the end. He's made some other hires that haven't turned out that aren't worth going into. But then this one, he went off. He identified this guy. This was his man. He bought his plan, and it just has been kind of empty words in a lot of ways. So ultimately, Scott probably is going to get swept up in this, along with some of these people in the UAA, University Athletic Association, you would think, but I just don't know for sure. The first step is just, a reset of the football program. And they don't have a president, as you know. Ben Sass resigned. And so you have an interim president. You're going to have a fired football coach eventually this season, I think, by the season's end. You're going to have an interim AD too. I just don't know how you do it all at once.
Edgar, real quick, I know you got to get out of here.
No, that's okay. I got a little bit of time.
Okay. There just happened to be a social media clip with Urban Meyer. Did you see that yesterday?
Well, unfortunately, my Twitter account has been corrupted and it's been down almost 2 months. And you talk about, sailing blindly. It's like, the old cartographers or whatever on the Clipper ship. I mean, I don't know where I'm going, but without Twitter. But yes, I heard about it.
Would they ever entertain bringing him by?
It would be a hard sell because of the way he left twice, really. Was going to leave, came back, then leaves, goes to Ohio State within a year after saying he needed to do this for his health and his family. A lot of people took that badly, understandably. And then what happened, how it ended at Ohio State with the Zach Smith scandal, the domestic violence stuff, kept the kid on his staff. Earl Bruce's grandson, I believe, or something. So there was some history there, is why maybe Urban did try to help the guy, keep him around, but it was just a bad look. And then all the stuff that occurred on Urban's watch here in Gainesville. I mean, Aaron Hernandez is the obvious one, but there was just a lot of just guys getting in trouble, and it just wasn't a good look ultimately for the program. So you're going to sell that just because he won titles? Look, Percy Harvin's not sitting up in Tidewater, Virginia, ready to come to the Gators. Or Tim Tebow's not over in Jacksonville ready to come to the Gators right now. Those guys were generational, once-in-a-lifetime guys, really. And Urban got a lot out of that. I don't know, man. He's 60 years old. It's the NIL now age, the portal age. Does he know how to manage all that? He's a brilliant guy. He could figure it out. I just think, can you trust his stability too? Can you trust that Urban's going to stick it out? He hadn't shown that he can.
I could tell a joke about his wife, but I'm not going to.
Edgar, we always talk about the Urban Meyers, and even before them, the Steve Spurriers and the cutting-edge offenses, which is what everybody thinks of Florida winning titles. But you just brought up the defense earlier, and how much is it a slap in the face to Florida tradition for the defense to be this bad? Because when Urban Meyer won his 2 national titles, they had top 5 defenses both years. When Spurrier won his, Bob Stoops was the defensive coordinator. Doesn't it seem like that's as much a part of the Florida identity and tradition as anything, is having suffocating defenses?
It's certainly that Urban 06 team, which was my last year here until I came back in 12. That defense was excellent. And it made Troy Smith look like an amateur. He just won the Heisman. I think he had 85 passing yards, and they sacked him 8 or 9 times in that game where they blew him out 41-14 in the BCS title game, which was an upset. A lot of people thought Ohio State was going to run away with that thing. And they ran back the opening kick, you remember, Ted Ginn. It was like, oh, my God, here we go. They didn't have a chance that night. Their defenses were good, and they were really good for a good stretch. Muschamp had good defenses. He left McElwain good defenses, played for 2 SEC titles. Now, they weren't in those games because of the offenses, but the defenses were good. Mullen's first defense or 2 were good. And then 2020, the wheels just fell off, and they haven't really come back on. But these defenses are getting worse, which is hard to believe. I mean, they're giving up almost 50% on third down. The statistics are just damning on every front with this defense and have been for a while. So, yeah, Florida fans are offended by that. But you can go out and outscore teams in some cases, but you have to stop the better teams you have to have some stops here and create some opportunities. And these are not opportunistic teams. Last year they had 7 turnovers, 3 interceptions, tied for last in the nation. They gave up, I think, 25, 30-yard pass plays, more than anyone in the nation other than like UNLV. It's just like they're just not good in any way. And that's why I say when they come to Tennessee, I mean, just whatever, name the score.
It's putting the cart before the horse, but do you have any idea who they would go after? And I'll let you out of here.
Well, everybody thinks Lane Kiffin is the guy, that he would like the Florida job, that he wants to go to a big brand and prove his wares. He's done fantastically at Mississippi Ole Miss. But think about it. He could be playing until mid-January. So how's that work? You know, signing day is now 3 weeks earlier. It's December 4th. I didn't realize that till the other day. The portal opens December 9th. I don't know how you get all that managed without it all just being a lost year of talent acquisition in many ways. If you're like got a team that's in the playoff, it's going to be it's a needle to thread. I wouldn't want to, but he would be a guy who would instill excitement, who would bring back offensive fireworks, who would bring back some brashness a la Spurrier that fans love. Urban was pretty cocky. Mullen had a little cockiness to him when he had it rolling, particularly. Fans like that. And they like offense and they like brashness here. So Lane would be a great hire. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people talk about like Jamie Chadwell being intriguing, and he's certainly an intriguing guy, but I just don't think you can sell Power 5 again. And, you know, I heard Lincoln Riley's name floated. He's not happy at USC. Why would he come want to deal with this? And why? I mean, a lot of people, don't want to come build this back up. Lincoln is shown such acumen in the portal. He could probably do it pretty quickly. But this is going to take time. This isn't going to be an overnight flip the switch, because this roster right now has not performed and probably been misevaluated pretty terribly.
Edgar, great stuff. I would tell people to follow you on Twitter, but you don't have Twitter right now. So where do they follow you?
Well, it's OS Gators, and I'm trying to revive it. I finally got a robot from Twitter actually communicated with me the other day and gave me some hope. But it is unbelievable, this Twitter mess that I'm dealing with. But yeah, whatever. I appreciate you guys having me, and best of luck. I look forward to seeing you guys on whatever the 12th is. It October 12th.
I think it sounds weird not being in September. Have a blessed day, Edgar.
Yeah, see you, Caleb. See you, Dave.
Have a good one, Edgar.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Edgar Thompson, the Orlando Sentinel. Wow, the way he laid out the timing of it, could it be Lane Kiffin? I'm going to say bank on it, brought to you by a commercial bank, that they would basically take a mulligan year to get Lane Kiffin. Caleb, do you agree? Bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
So, Caleb, do you agree or disagree that Lane Kiffin would take that job and they would take a mulligan on a year so that he could rebuild the roster? Because of timing, if he gets into the playoffs, he's not going to be eligible, or not going to be available, I should say, until like January.
Yeah, I would take that mulligan. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I probably wouldn't without the transfer portal and NIL in the old days, but I would now.
I mean, yeah, so much of luck and look, this is coaching. This is weird. I want to say this about coaching. It's like the NBA. So much of it is luck. And what I mean by that is so much of it is sucking at the right time. So you land the right player. I mean, I know that's weird to say, but I think isn't Alabama thoroughly grateful that, the year before they fired Mike Shula, they went 10-2. You remember that team, Dave? They went 10-2 and finished in the top 10. Shula got a contract extension. Aren't they thanking the Lord that they went 10-2 in 2005 and not 2006? So then they could fire Mike Shula and get Nick Saban?
Yeah,
Some
probably.
of that is luck and timing.
No, you're right. I can't argue with that. Caleb, we're going to get to a couple of things, and this I wanted to play while Edgar was on the air, but he sent me a text that he had some things to get to, so I didn't want to keep him too long. It'll be brought to you by Hound Dogs Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. You got to see all that they have at Hound Dogs of Knoxville. You can go to hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com, and order online anything you need. I mean, they're licensed, so they're carrying all the Nike jerseys, and I hear they're wearing the Stormtroopers. But Caleb, if we can pull up this Urban Meyer clip, because I don't think character, it's one of the reasons I like Josh Heupel, is I think he's a high character guy. And I know that I'm supposed to say that because a lot of our fans are Tennessee people, and I get that, but you can believe me or not. So I think he's a high character guy. I don't think most coaches are. I think it's a backstabbing business, and I think that's the way things go. But I want to see if you find this every bit as distasteful as I do, because this to me just lays the foundation for Urban Meyer going back to the University of Florida. Let's play that now.
And I want to set this up before I play it so people aren't confused. This is Urban Meyer talking about Florida and the state of the program. And bear with this, guys. It's about a 2.5-minute clip, but you got to hear the whole clip because the entire clip is worth listening to.
Worth it.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to play the whole clip. So just bear with us for a second.
Last night, I said, I talked to Coach Steve Spurrier last night. I said something. I said, were you in the game? And he said he left, to beat the traffic, but he said it was bad. And when that momentum is such a fragile thing, because people want to win and won now and would do anything. You see these buyouts, you're going to talk about them here in a minute, where they just keep firing people because you start to lose momentum. You lose momentum, you lose recruiting. You lose, and then fans and NIL. And I mean, I'm getting a little bit stressed out here even thinking about what's happening there because the momentum is gone. It's been gone for a while there, and that's hard to imagine. I mean, there's no better place. There's no better stadium. It's like a freaking jet engine right behind you when you're cooking. Jobs are based on recruiting, and there's within a 300-mile radius. You don't have to go anywhere else. I was offered the Notre Dame job and the Florida job, and I'm Irish Catholic, and I love Notre Dame. I would go there in a minute. But the reason I took Florida, not many people know this, is because I had young kids at the time. When you recruit for Notre Dame, Mark, you recruit Los Angeles, Phoenix, Dallas, New Jersey, New York, Memphis, and Florida. You know where you recruit when you're Florida? You got a King Air and you got a citation at your disposal. I was home almost every night because you recruit Tampa, you recruit Miami, you recruit Polk County, you go up in Georgia, but you're home. And so Florida's got it all right there.
It's funny the things that come back to your brain, and just like your first memories of somebody or something. And Coach, one of my first memories of you was a classic video clip to Coldplay, I Will Fix You. And it was Urban coming to Gainesville to fix the Florida Gators. And I remember it vividly. It was so great. And all the Gator Nation was behind you and feeling this change of pace. And I guarantee you there's some boosters, there's some alums out there saying, you know what? Let's find Urban Meyer's number and let's get his tail back down to Gainesville. Somebody called you, said, Coach, come fix us again. What would you tell them?
That ship has sailed, Mark. And I want that program to do well so bad. I know so many people there, and we give a big part of our life to that program. But that ship has sailed, Mark.
Okay, let's go ahead and cut that off. All right, so it's a lot to unpack. Caleb, I think he's laying the foundation that he would like to have the job there. And I think he realizes that Lane Kiffin has already reached out to schools like Florida and like LSU before Brian Kelly was hired. I can tell you that's a fact. And he realizes that Lane Kiffin is in this position where he couldn't feasibly take the job because of the timing that has been laid out by the NCAA, and that's the early signing period in December, and then you have the portal opening shortly thereafter. So, Caleb, a lot to unpack there. Am I spot on, or am I being conspiracy theorist guy?
You're being conspiracy theorist guy, but I'm not going to blame you for being conspiracy theorist guy. I have a different conspiracy theory, but I'm going to be crazy Caleb conspiracy right now too. And I disagree with you. I think he's dead serious on the ship has sailed. And I'll tell you why. Unless you're Arkansas, I don't think when a coach leaves in a certain fashion, I don't think you can sell hiring them back. To give you an example, Dave, just real quick before I get to Urban Meyer in Florida, after the whole Greg Schiano fiasco blew up, a lot of Tennessee fans wanted Tennessee to hire Lane Kiffin back. There was no way that the Boosters would have let that happen, right? There was no way in hell Lane Kiffin could ever be hired back at Tennessee with how he left.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, okay. But how do you view the way Urban Meyer left Florida?
It's not just how I view it. Edgar just said it, and it's how many Florida fans feel. They feel that, I'm not saying this narrative is fair, but a lot of the narrative of Urban Meyer at Florida is this. He inherited 3 years worth of Ron Zook recruits. Who, whatever you think of Ron Zook, was a hell of a recruiter, right? Best recruiter between Zook, Spurrier, and Urban. Ron Zook was the best of those 3 recruiters.
Great.
Inherited 3 years worth of Ron Zook recruits. Inherited a defensive coordinator who at the time was one of the best defensive coordinators in college football. And then inherited Tim Tebow, who fell out of the sky into his lap as the best quarterback in history to be able to run the spread option, just happened to line up timing-wise. And the narrative comes that he, after inheriting all that, threw all discipline to the side, threw anything about running a program properly to the side, threw all morals to the side, and just let Florida and cashed in on that early and set the program back decades with his lack of control, his purposeful lack of control. And many people believe that even though Will Muschamp didn't work out, even though Jim McElwain didn't work out, even though Dan Mullen didn't work out, many people believe that Urban Meyer left the program in such a mess with its lack of discipline that he shattered the reputation of Florida and made it almost impossible to be able to recruit at a national level there, because the reputation of Florida to this day is if you go there, you are going to a culture of murderers, of sexual harassers, of stalkers, of terrible people surrounding you. And the truth of the matter is, it's hard to shed that reputation. I think Urban did such a piss poor job caring about that. The reputation is so bad there that I think it's still lasting to this day at Florida.
Well, I think the right coach, maybe you and I differ a little bit on this. I think the right coach could change the culture, especially if you're willing to give a mulligan year and give it some time. New poll question up. Caleb, I want you to read that off. Brought to you by the UPS store, Hardin Valley. They're there to help individuals and small businesses by offering a wider range of products and services, locally owned and operated, conveniently located, 10629 Hardin Valley Road, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. The link is right below. Caleb, the new poll question is,
what's the worst thing Urban Meyer did at Florida? Give up on Florida, citing his health reasons, recruiting thugs, and dirty dancing with Barfly. I think you left one off the list.
Which one did I leave off the list?
Many of the thugs are already on the list. Sometimes coaches, it's their job to help mold those thugs into, I don't want to say thugs, but kids who have wayward backgrounds that can kind of straighten themselves up. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but there's such a thing as just, I mean, you know.
Yeah, but Urban Meyer encouraged kids.
I've covered recruiting. Okay, I want to give you an example. You know, Eddie Goldman, who played for Florida State, Tennessee recruited out of Washington, D.C. It was as inner city of a place as I've ever gone. And he was a yes, sir, no, sir guy. I could tell right away he's a great kid. I took his whole family to dinner. You know, you have an idea in the guys that you recruit and the guys that are on your team, and you've got to disassociate yourself. That's the thing that's so bizarre to me. Aaron Hernandez was a heck of a tight end. There's no doubt about that. Okay. But they still could have won a championship or two without Aaron Hernandez, who was showing signs of being a psychopath back then.
Well, wait, but see, there's a difference. Aaron Hernandez is a straight up psychopath, sociopath. I'm talking about the kid that's on the fence, the kid that is not Eddie Goldman, but that, first of all, Aaron Hernandez didn't come from a bad background.
Eddie wasn't even on the fence. I don't want to, I was just thinking of inner city or.
Okay, let's think of this. Yeah, because Aaron Hernandez wasn't even inner city. He grew up in the suburbs. He just wanted this lifestyle. think about the inner city kid that he like makes a lot of mistakes. He may give off the reputation of a thug, but you cover recruits like this. You're like, he were in the right environment. If he played in the Josh Heupel culture, he could turn into a good kid. You've covered kids like that, right?
Yes, but I've
that's what
also, okay, but
that's
I've
where I'm
also,
at.
Okay, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you a great. I don't feel comfortable sharing this name, but I've also covered a guy that went to a private school that was really surprised he was even being recruited in the beginning, got caught up in the recruiting process, and ended up being a big jackwagon. And he's been a big jackwagon in the NFL. So, and in the flip side, I don't mind outing this guy because I was more excited about Alvin Kamara having a great game than I was caring about the Cowboys losing on Sunday, because Alvin Kamara sat behind another guy that he was better than at Tennessee, went through the junior college trials, which a lot of kids never make it through. I'm telling you, Caleb, this studio is bigger than some junior college weight rooms I've seen. Always had a smile on his face and always a good guy. I think that was a good guy from the get.
Yes, but he did get dismissed from Alabama. And what I'm trying to say is that
that's a little iffy.
I think because Urban Meyer let the culture go wild, that even if there was a kid on the fence, if they went to Florida, they'd be good at Florida, but they would kind of fall through the cracks because Urban Meyer didn't care. Here's where I'm getting with Urban Meyer on all of this, because Urban Meyer just flat out, we can both agree, he did not care, right? He didn't care if you're killing people if you're going to win him a football game. And
as long as you can get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And so let's point this out with Urban Meyer. Here's what really grated me with what he said on that podcast. One, he faked his stress again. He faked that health. Did you notice that? Watching it's making me so stressed out. He's trying to remind people, guys, I have a mental health issue, and you should show me some sympathy. That was what he did with me.
And then he went to esophageal spasms, which I've had those. I actually have. It ain't that big of a deal.
Let me give you my conspiracy on this. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I don't think he wants the Florida job back. I don't think he cares to have it back. What I think he doesn't like is that he's kind of a pariah in Florida despite 2 national titles. And I think he's trying to be like, guys, don't you remember what I did for you? I'm not a bad guy. I just have stress problems, and I really love the university. And can you guys please accept me? I mean, Dave, Urban Meyer has 2 national titles. Steve Spurrier has 1, yet Florida worships Steve Spurrier way more than Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer's a little jealous of that. I think he's a little jealous of that.
He just has no class. He didn't even say Billy Napier's name.
He's a
that's not something that Steve Spurrier would have done. Steve Spurrier we could call him brash all you want, but he wouldn't throw Billy Napier under the bus. And we were going to try to get Pat Dooley on, who does a weekly show with him. And I guarantee you, I can tell you right now what Steve Spurrier would say, and that would be this: hope Billy can get it turned around. Things don't look so good, but hope Billy can get it turned around. I mean, that's the right thing to say as an alumnus publicly or a former coach publicly.
But Dave, that's why Steve Spurrier is beloved in Florida, and Urban Meyer's probably never welcomed back. I mean, it's weird. Don't you find it weird that they never bring Urban Meyer back for anything, and he won 2 national titles? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Steve Spurrier is absolutely beloved, and even though Urban Meyer won more national titles, and so
let me ask you this: would you be fearful of Lane Kiffin because of the class he assembled in 2009 with Tennessee, which literally, not exaggerating, had more felons than all SEC players, and had a murderer in the group, and he knew that a lot of them had questionable character. Now, we're in a different era of NIL in the transfer portal, but if you did your research and you went back and looked at that 2009 team, then I knew they were getting extra benefits. It was obvious. Would that concern you, or are you just concerned? Or has Lane Kiffin completely shed that past? To me, Lane Kiffin has completely shed that past. I think he's quirky. I think he's funny. I don't think he's as much of a me guy anymore. Age will do that to you. To me, he's the natural candidate.
Here's the thing with Lane Kiffin, and I personally wouldn't worry about it, but there's a lot more that was going on. Let's call it what it is with Tennessee at the time, Dave. Tennessee, the reason he was so brash and the reason he didn't care about recruiting, I know this. I think Tennessee was so resentful of Florida during that time and the success. I think that I'm just going to say it, Dave. I think the administration, and you were there, I think they were more interested in winning the back page headlines than they were in actually winning games. And I think they wanted to knock Florida off the front page of the sports section of national papers. And they wanted to do that more than they wanted to knock Florida off the top of the SEC. And that's why I think Lane Kiffin got a task from above of engage in public war with Urban Meyer. And that's why he didn't care about who he was getting. And and I don't think he would do that now, because I don't think he would be at a university that would demand he do that. You have to give me this. I know you were covering it. Tennessee was actively embracing Lane Kiffin, not caring about any sort of morals or discipline at Tennessee at that time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he did that. Nobody covered the signing day thing.
The new Keith Richardson thing when he said Urban cheated?
Yeah, nobody used to cover that when he would go across the state and talk to all these people. I didn't cover, and I was the beat reporter. Nobody covered that because it was just, we like this guy, we like this guy, we like this guy. And suddenly John Adams, for some reason, went, and he's like, this is red hot, and calls me and like, oh, let's get cracking here.
The Tennessee administration wanted that out there. They wanted Lane Kiffin to publicly take a shot at Urban Meyer because they were so. It's very much how, if you guys know the New York market, the Jets versus the Giants. The Jets fans resent the Giants so much that the Jets organization will go out of their way to try to steal back page headlines on the New York Post, even if it costs them games in the year. They'll make moves just to win the back page all season headlines. Tennessee was trying to do that with Florida. They were. I mean, I'm sorry that maybe people may not want to hear that. Lane Kiffin's not going to get that if he goes to Florida.
I don't think they ever did it at the behest of their program. I think Lane Kiffin knew that he could publicly bully Urban Meyer, and Urban Meyer wouldn't do anything about it. And I think he thought he was a better coach. He never said anything publicly negative about Nick Saban because he knew he wasn't the better coach.
He also,
I'm not with you on the last part of that, but I don't think it was just for attention. I think he was getting attention, saying that this is going to be a better program and bragging about new Keith Richardson.
Rest in peace, but Mike Hamilton did at one point say, I love Lane Kiffin talking about it, talking the way he does. It generates buzz for our program. That is code for the attention is the important thing.
Yeah, but the Jets, you're saying the Jets make moves at the
like when the Jets traded for Tim Tebow. Let's be honest. The Jets traded for Tim Tebow right after the Giants won the Super Bowl. Dave, you and I both know they did that because they wanted to make sure they stole headlines from the Giants.
That's fair. I'll give you that one. All right. Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd or online at qualitytirepros.com. Qualitytirepros.com. Just tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports and Dave said hello. Last Look, another coach gone wild. This one might not surprise you. Last Look brought to you by Campbell Cunningham Taylor and On. Look at me. No glasses, no contacts. Here's Deion Sanders going off on reporters whose meager salary doesn't compare to him and his players in this NIL era. Just me personally, I've been advocating that players get paid for a long, long time. Did I think it was going to be in the 7 digits? No, I did not. But am I jealous of Nico or James Pierce? Absolutely not. And for a couple of reasons. God gives us all certain abilities. They got their abilities, but they also work their rear end to get where they are. Nobody is so talented that they just show up. Nico's an incredibly hard worker. James Pierce is an incredibly hard worker. They're both making over $1 million a year. Do they bring that to the university? I believe so. So I got no problem with it. But here's what Deion Sanders has to say about reporters that are too hard on his program because they're jealous of the money they make.
Dave, I'm going to play this clip, and you've been a reporter longer than I have, so I'll let you go first to give your thoughts. But after you do that, I want to go nuclear on Deion Sanders. So I'm teasing that on you guys right now. But okay. Yes, I will play this first.
When I say I genuinely love these kids, I genuinely really do. It's not about what they can do for me on the football field. It's about what I can help them with in life. Landscape has changed in football. Once upon a time, you guys never attacked college players. Now they're making more money than y'all. And some of y'all are envious and jealous about that. So you're on the attack. It was hands off a college player because he's an amateur. Remember? Remember that, guys? Now it's hands on. Go at them any kind of way you want. They're making more money than me, and I'm mad about it. When you attack them, these guys are sensitive. They've never been attacked. They hadn't gone through what I've been going through with y'all for years. They haven't done that. So it is what it is. I know you're going to do your job and what you must do, but your job does not say attack. The personal stuff, leave it to be personal, because if we start flipping the script on y'all, you wouldn't like it. I can easy. Thank you, Lord, for stopping me there. Ooh, that was almost a good one.
Yeah, it's like he was getting ready to say, I could easily hire a private investigator and find out what you do. I think that's the direction he was going. Or I could easily tell some people some things about you that you don't like. That's the direction he's going. So you want to go nuclear, that's fine. I'm going to tell you my thoughts. It's human nature. I wouldn't be surprised if some people in the media are jealous, but I think it's a very low percentage, or you wouldn't have any NFL reporters or NBA reporters. I mean, that's just not what the gig is about. And I think most people know that they're not going to get rich being a reporter, but they accept that because they love the craft, as do I. And I think Caleb does as well. So that's absurd. The other thing is, I will say that it is fair to be more critical now that they're making more money. It's not fair to do it in a vengeful way, but I do think it opens things up. Okay. At the same time, I do remind myself that whether or not Nico has made $1, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, whatever it is, he still is a young kid. And I guess Caleb having a son that age, it would make me hesitant to go off on him if he had a bad game Saturday at Oklahoma. And now Carson Beck, who's older and has shown off his Lamborghini, that might be different. But again, I try to be fair to everybody. I don't care if they're in the NFL or not. All right, Caleb, what do you got?
Dave, you that was very well said, and I actually agree with most of what you said in terms of the first part, because they're making more money. You engaged Deion in what he was saying. I mean, first off, Deion, and I'm about to go nuclear, but first I would say Deion Sanders is right. We are more critical of them now that they're making NIL, but you're right. That's fair game, because we have, if you're making money, you're no longer an amateur, and you don't get to hide behind the cloud of amateurism. You either make the money, which we all supported, and get treated like a pro, or you don't make the money and you get treated like an amateur. It's one or the other. You can't have it both ways. Deion Sanders is a coward. Yes, coward. I said it. And here's why he's a coward. I hate when anybody does this in a press conference. Let me make up something somebody said. I'm not going to say who said it. I'm going to say you guys. You guys in the media said this. The media says this. Well, Deion, who in the media said it? If you're so tough, if you're so brazen, if you're so gutsy, why don't you call out the person? You're not going to call out the person because you don't have anybody who actually said it, because you darn well know that every person covering your program, just like every person covering Tennessee, all of us have all embraced college athletes making money. We disagreed on how it should be implemented. We didn't know what should happen. But is there somebody you have covered college football with that didn't think the college football players should be getting paid something? Because I don't know anybody.
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Okay, well.
I mean, I know some old school guys, ones on this program. Yes, I think it was 50-50, maybe even with circles I ran, 60-40, they shouldn't pay them.
But what about the people covering Deion at Colorado, those national media guys?
Well, and you said, you phrased it a different way. No, I know some people, I think there are three people. I think they're the tops of people when it comes in. I think there's one set, you deserve nothing. You get a scholarship, the Pell Grant can take care of you, blah, 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 if your family is underprivileged. That's one set. Okay. You get no money. There's a middle set that said they should have gotten at least $45,000, $50,000. And if the NCAA had done that in the first place, you probably wouldn't be in the huge mess that you're in now. And then there's the other set, which I'm in, and I'm like, Cooper Mays, if you bring this to the table, you get this. And that's how things work. And I'm proud to pay you that money. And he does pretty well.
Okay. So
that is the camp I'm in. But no, I would disagree with you. And if you just said the vast majority thought players should be.
Well, Deion said y'all to the media and didn't name one person, because the people covering Deion aren't thinking that. This is a new media era for Colorado. It's a bunch of new guys, kind of new to the sport of college football, let's be honest. And people not steeped in the tradition of college football that don't love it the way we do, that cover pro sports. Every time they are responsible for touching on college football, they think those are the type of people that have always thought it's criminal that these players aren't getting paid. I'm one of those people, by the way, even though I'm not steeped in pro sports, I am steeped in college football. Nobody covering Deion, nobody in that room right there has said anything negative about NIL. He just said it out. And then he said, y'all are saying personal stuff. You're jealous. What personal stuff? What's the jealousy? Deion, you're the one who's gotten personal with everybody. When he said I could get personal if I wanted to, he got personal with a college athlete earlier this year when he made fun of his performance.
I can pretty much promise you that had somebody, I remember, you remember I'm 40, I'm a man.
Yeah.
That was based off something that I believe that Gundy, I don't think it was personal. I think Gundy thought it was personal, and it was about a guy eating a sandwich, and his mom gave him part of the sandwich and fed him a little bit. And they're like, it was a kind of a throwaway, stupid line where, the guy can't even feed himself. Ha ha ha. And I thought Gundy had a point. But we would have heard about that. He would have specifically called somebody out. I'm going to give you the final word. Last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
See every play, even from the upper deck, with LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center.
All right, Caleb. What do you got?
Deion, you can get personal with me all day. I don't care. I'm still going to say what I think about you. I'm going to say what I think about your son and the rest of your team. And I think Shedeur and Travis Hunter are two great players. I actually defended Shedeur Sanders not shaking the opposing quarterback's hand last week after what they were saying about him leading up to the week. I don't have a problem with that. None of us are scared, and most of us media members are not scared of you getting personal. It's pathetic that you said that because we cover these players. Yes, we're going to be harder on them when they're making money. And no, we're not jealous of them when we do that.
I agree with what Carl said. When Deion's kids leave, he's gone, definitely. I think so, too.
Assuming he's not fired for lack of production before then.
Well, I think this, one way or another, I think this has completely gotten not fun for him. And I think where he was at Jackson State, sorry.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Nobody paid attention to him, so I think it was fun.
He can't handle the hot water. That's what we're seeing.
Yep. And that's the first time really that he's been that in his career, which is, I watched him as a player and I thought he always came through in the big games. And I thought that was the one thing that I always kind of not held out hope for, but kind of put in his favor. The worst thing that Urban Meyer ever did was update us on the poll question.
The worst thing Urban Meyer ever did was give up on Florida citing health, recruiting thugs, and dirty dancing with Barfly. Recruiting thugs leads, but give up on Florida citing health is a close second, and then dirty dancing with Barfly is third. I think turning a blind eye to Aaron Hernandez kind of takes the cake, but that's
Ollie Lane will join us tomorrow. Yes, go ahead.
Who's the worst person, Urban Meyer or Hugh Freeze?
Well, of the confirmed stuff I know, to me, it's Urban Meyer, but it's a close call.
Yeah, but he's Caleb Calhoun.
He's Caleb Calhoun. Yeah, if what you told me is absolutely true, then I would go in that direction. But he's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation a little long. Sorry about that. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit like and subscribe. Ring that bell. Turn the notifications on so you know when we're ready to talk balls and more with you.